of the Migration Matters Trust, and also Douglas Murray, Associate Editor of The Spectator. Gentlemen, very good afternoon to both of you. Douglas, to you first. If I may, what differences have you noticed in attitude due to Brexit?
I've noticed none particularly. I don't think that there has been any huge seismic change. I think we've seen an acceleration of a trend that's been going on, not just in Britain, but in most advanced democracies for some time now, which is people going into their own echo chambers, hearing the sort of things they want to hear, having their opinions reinforced in social media, and so on, and effectively not speaking to people who disagree with them. And therefore, this polarisation, which your poll has, I think, correctly identified, has certainly accelerated to some extent. But I don't think it's anywhere nearly as catastrophic a thing as some people would say it is. And I think, what's more, it's very easy to rectify.
We'll come back to that. First of all, let me put the same question to Atul, should I? Have you noticed any difference in the way people deal with each other as a result of Brexit?
Anecdotally, on a personal basis, yes. You can just hear it when you're on the bus, on the train, the nature of conversations. I think discussion, racist words, racist discourse comes more easily. I've heard it, I've had it directed at myself, in a way that I haven't experienced for probably 30 years. And I think it is the natural consequence of the divisive nature of the referendum campaign, particularly with some of the rhetoric from the Leave side, which focused and stigmatised the other being migrants, people of different colour, people with a different accent. And that campaign, unfortunately, legitimised, not wittingly in most cases, legitimised nascent views which were held, and people feel emboldened who already had these racist views, and actually it's contributed to quite a different climate in this country. Douglas,
intolerance always there, but it has a more accessible platform now?
No, I think that's absolute nonsense and very insulting to the majority of the population who voted for a very specific thing, after all, which was to leave the political entity that is the European Union. Now, plenty of people would like to mix these things up, and it's enormously politically advantageous for some people that whenever they are on the back foot in any political campaign, such as a campaign for Britain to remain in the European Union, that they can associate everybody who disagrees with them as effectively being racist or giving rise to racist feeling, and so on. I think it's an appalling slur on most people in Britain. I travel on trains and buses. I don't hear people using racist language. I've never heard it. I don't hear it now. I don't think anyone's more accepting of it now if it were to occur. I think it's always been deemed something that you can't do, and I think that it is outrageous to pretend that because the majority of the British public, when they voted last June, said that we would like to leave a political entity over which we felt we did not any longer have sufficient control, should be smeared by association as being racist or anything like it. It's an appalling thing to do, and you only have to wonder whether people would be doing this if the vote had gone the other way, and the question answers itself.
OK, Atul, you're obviously on very different buses and trains to that Douglas travels on.
Well, perhaps. I would suggest I make 2 points. One, the massive upsurge in racist incidents reported to the police, the upsurge in reports more broadly in the government's figures, and indeed as uncovered in polling such as yours, gives a quantitative basis to what a lot of people are experiencing and feeling. And I'd respectfully, would Douglas, draw one distinction between us, not just our politics, but there is a distinction of colour, and I would suggest to him that if he spoke with, if he was a different colour, if he spoke with a thick European accent or any accent whatsoever, he might find his train journeys and his bus journeys a slightly different experience.
The problem with this is that you go around in a circle, don't you? Forever embedding grievance and identity politics, and you go on and on with identity politics, and then at some point it comes back to bite you. People in this country, I would think, by and large, don't believe that we are separated into totally different communities and that you belong to one community and that there's another community that's out to get you or so on. I think most of us are a long way past that idea and don't like the mongers who have been trying to divide our country along community lines for a very long time now. It's a very low form of politics. But it might just be possible, I just put it out there, there has been a lot of polling in the last 6 months which shows all sorts of things, and apart from anything else, people keep on pointing to the so-called hate crime epidemic. Most of this is explicable not that the British people have suddenly become some knuckle-dragging, racist, fascist, xenophobic bigots, but rather that there is a consistent upsurge in reporting of so-called hate crimes because people are being made aware of such things more and more and are reporting such things, including, and let's remember this, so-called hate crimes that are carried out on social media. We've seen claims that there has been an upsurge in homophobic hate crimes since Brexit. That, again, is because there is a reporting increase. That does not mean that since last June, the British people have decided to take it out on gays and sexual and ethnic minorities and everything else. We've really got to get over this idea that just because you didn't like the vote, you can claim that everyone has suddenly become a bigot.
But I take it back to my question, Atul, perhaps you could help me with that, and whether or not people feel that they have been given a platform as a result, a more accessible platform as a result of Brexit, or whether it's some other reason.
I think it was the nature of the Brexit campaign, where the focus and stigmatisation of the other is at the heart of the politics. It's inevitable, the consequence that flows, which is that people who held nascent racist beliefs, prejudices, feel emboldened, empowered to state them publicly and to raise them publicly. And frankly, it is insulting of Douglas to suggest that this is just made up. Between June 15 and June 2015 and September 2016, there was a rise in over 2,000 racist incidents. Now, the approach Douglas has suggested, which is to sort of airily wave it away and say it's just troublemakers, it's just professional complainers, is exactly why problems like this arise. And only when this sort of prejudice is condemned, as it should be, directly and confronted, can we move on to a better, a more saner debate. And I would say this: it's not about Remain and Leave.
Okay.
It is about condemning actions which are absolutely despicable. And I hope Douglas would do that.
Douglas, you can come in. Go.
Yeah, but everybody is condemning actual racism as we would condemn actual violence and so on when it happens. You and I are agreed on that. But when you say it's not about in or out, leave or remain, of course it is. You just made it so. You directly related what you say is an upsurge in hate crime, which I think is explicable by the fact that reporting of all such incidents keeps on going up because people are being made aware of them and are being encouraged to report such crimes. You directly related that to the majority decision by the British people to leave the political entity that is the EU. If people like you keep on calling everybody who disagrees with your own politics racist, I can assure you that the division which we all lament will only get a lot worse.
Okay.
Why don't we, instead of doing the name calling, actually get on to discussing our country's future?
Okay, Douglas, you started, so Atul, you can finish quickly if you would.
I'd like to correct Douglas on one key point. It wasn't the decision of the British people that has led to this upsurge in racism and hate. It is the nature of the campaign. The decision itself is a political decision, and it's fine. It has economic consequences, it has political consequences, but it is the nature of the campaign, the inflammatory rhetoric, which creates a context for this sort of racism.
You just think we voted the wrong way.
Chaps.
You just think we voted the wrong way.
Yeah, well,
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.